Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Daily Magic. My name is SlytherinKnight, and I'm so happy you could join me. So today's daily is just to cast 30 black or white or black spells, nice and easy. And we are going to use a new option for this, an Orzhov Warp deck. Now I call it a warp deck mainly because there's a few different cards in here that have warp, but it mainly has to do with Ketramose, the New Dawn, being kind of our centerpiece card here. The problem with Ketramose is that it can't attack or block unless there are 7 or more cards in exile, and that is either side. Cards you own in exile or cards your opponent owns in exile. So we have some options to get that going. Its other abilities whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from graveyards and or the battlefield during your turn, you draw a card and lose a life, so we get a bit of life. So we get a bit of draw power there. We do lose some life, but it's not that big a deal. So, centerpiece card, let's start talking about some of the others. Lightstall Inquisitor. Whenever this creature enters, each opponent exiles a card from their hand, and may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Each spell cast this way costs 1 more to cast. Each land played this way enters tapped. So, not terrible. It's a good 1-drop. And again, it's a way to put something in exile. So if we have a Ketramose on the field, we draw a card, lose a life whenever we play Lightstall Inquisitor. It doesn't really hurt our opponent that much. Forcing them to pay 1 more for a spell is not that bad, but it has its value. Seam Rip is good early exile removal. Whenever this enchantment enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value 2 or less until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. So that's throwing something into exile. Very nice. Ghost Vacuum, we all know what this does. Removing things from the grave, exiling things from the graveyard. So for once, this card actually has a purpose outside of dealing with graveyard decks, because it helps us get Ketramose to be able to do anything. Shelter by Ghost, no introduction needed. Timeline Culler is just a good 2-drop with haste, and you can warp it for black mana, pay 2 life, from your graveyard, which is awesome. So pretty much like a card that never goes away unless it's been exiled. Seer Vondam, Sunstar Exemplar. Whenever another creature you control dies or is put into exile, put a +1/+1 counter on Seer Vondam and you gain 1 life. So there's kind of your idea of how we're gaining some life from losing life from drawing cards. Whenever Seer Vondam dies or is put into exile, while its power is 4 or greater, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. And there is a combo here that we'll talk about in a second. Haliya, Guided by Light. Whenever, Haliya or another creature or artifact you control enters, you gain 1 life. There's your some more life gain. At the beginning of your instep, draw a card if you've gained 3 or more life this turn. That I don't think is going to happen very often, but you never know. And again, it has a warp ability, so that can help trigger Seer Vondam. Yeah. Perilous Snare, again, just more exile removal. And once we get to max speed, we can start putting counters on something. Very nice. Already talked about Ketramose. All-Fates Stalker. When this creature enters exile, up to 1 target non-assassin creature until this creature leaves the battlefield. So kind of the idea is that you warp this card in, exile Seer Vondam while it has power 4 or greater to destroy something. This leaves at the end of your turn, and then Seer Vondam comes back out. That's kind of the idea. Elegy Acolyte. Lifelink. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card and lose 1 life. You get the idea. Void, its Void ability. At the beginning of your instep, if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn or a spell was warped this turn, create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. And since that's kind of the whole point of this deck, you get the idea. Sothera, the Supervoid. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent chooses a creature they control and exiles it. So again, you get the idea. But its other ability, at the beginning of your instep, if a player controls no creatures, sacrifice Sothera, then put a creature card exiled with it onto the battlefield under your control with 2 additional +1/+1 counters. Situational, but I can see it working. That's why we only have 1 copy of it. Same thing with the End. A great way of potentially getting 4 exiles in a single turn, so you get the idea. And finally, Ashiok, Wicked Manipulator, because his whole thing is exiling cards, so you kind of get the idea, right? We are running a single land planet that once it has been fully charged with charge counters you can pay for, create a token that's a copy of target artifact or enchantment you control, except it's legendary, activate only as a sorcery. So the way I understand this is like you can only make one copy of a token. Like you can't just continue to make copies. So we can make a copy of Perilous Snare. So we'd have this one and then a legendary artifact version of it. So that's kind of the idea. I don't see us doing that very often because I would rather get things done pretty quickly, but you never know. Anyway, I think I've taken up enough time giving an overview of the deck. I just wanted to explain it, partially for my own good, so I knew what we were doing. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into a match or two, see how it performs. We definitely won't use these first couple matches to determine if it's worth keeping or not. It seems like a fun deck, to be honest. You know, a lot of kind of annoying your opponent by removing their stuff, but I guess we'll just see how it goes, won't we? Okay, I'm not upset with this. Yeah, I'm not terribly upset with this. We can do Seer Vondam, which is good. And dies or spend exile. Yeah. Okay, so they're playing a Chocobo deck. Gotcha. So I'll be sheltering that Chocobo. I would say, are you sure about that? Like, are you sure about that? And here comes the protection. Yep. I can warp this in. It won't really matter if I warp it in, though, so I guess we'll just no attack. Because that did get a counter with their Snakeskin Veil. Sadly, I kind of figured they had something like that, but you gotta try. So hopefully, if I can get another land, we'll end their Chocobo, which would be fantastic. But this is gonna hurt. No other land. That's unfortunate. Yeah, we can do this. Do that. Get you on the field naturally. Go ahead and exile. I feel like it doesn't really matter what we're exiling, but I'm going to keep Timeless Color as a potential blocker here. Another elf. Yeah, we're gonna block that. Actually, I can still do this. Yeah, we can do this. Grab you. You have now been exiled. Let's go ahead and warp you out. And take another one of you. I should have attacked with that. That was dumb. Well, I still got a boost, so that there is that. Okay, next, let's go ahead. Okay, wow, really? Why, though? I'm not entirely sure why they decided to go ahead and concede there. Not entirely sure what I was going to do next, actually. We could have done Timeless Color just to get it out on the field to be another blocker. That would have been our turn, because we didn't have any other mana, unfortunately, but we'll take it. And hey, Seam Rip worked pretty well there, so yeah, I'll take it. I'm not entirely sure. Again, I'm not sure why they decided to concede, but I'm not going to complain. So let's head into another match. This will probably be the last one. We're just testing this deck to see how we like it. So far, not bad. Seems relatively easy to play. See, the only bad thing here is I can't really. I could play this, but I have no reason to. Well, I mean, it'll make it harder for them to play one card. They get to pick the card, so it is what it is. But man, 2 Ghost Vacuums. And just pick something. Make it harder to play for maybe a turn. Do I get to see what the card is? That's what I want to know. Okay, I do. They picked Tragic Trajectory. Okay. So they could play that now. Kind of forced their turn though, so there is that, I guess. We can do another one, since I don't really have much else to do. They went with a nowhere to run. Can I? No. I mean, it is, in a way, it is forcing their turn. So, I'm okay with that, to be honest. It's forcing their turn, so yeah, just standard. We'll hold off. Well, yeah, there's nothing to pull except from my graveyard, so. Is that all you got? Okay, I can Perilous Snare that next turn. Really? They probably should have attacked. Gonna go ahead and drop you. And yep. Then we can do Elegy Acolyte next. Tidebinder. Yeah, that doesn't really do anything. Okay. Again, I'm not entirely sure why they went ahead and conceded there, but I will take it. For anyone wondering, I was probably going to go ahead and get Elegy Acolyte out on the field because of that 4/4 lifelink. Very nice. And I was going, obviously we were going to attack with Timeline Culler. They probably wouldn't have blocked, so we would have gotten a draw. We'd have lost a life and got a card draw, which may have been land, we don't know. But yeah, we had several options. I could have done another Perilous Snare to get rid of their Tidebinder, but I think getting another creature on the field would have been a better option. But hey, we'll take it. So kind of weird matches today. Two matches, 2 wins, but both of them ended up being because our opponent conceded. And again, I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe they just didn't have anything in hand that they felt could benefit them. I don't know, but hey, I will take them. And yeah, I do like the deck. It seems relatively easy to play, very intuitive for the most part. We didn't actually get to play Ketramose or ever really have enough cards in exile to benefit from Ketramose, but I like the idea of it, so yeah, definitely going to hold on to it. I don't really have another white-black option at the moment, so yeah, we'll definitely hold on to it. But anyway, that is going to do it for the matches today. We do have a single pack of Edge of Eternities open, so let's get to that. I'm going to be real mad if this Mythic is one of the cards I had to use a wild card on. I doubt it, but we'll see. Alright, nothing in the commons and uncommons. That's new. What's the mythic? The Endstone. Okay, so no, it was not. Whenever you play a land or cast a spell, draw a card. At the beginning of your end step, your life total becomes half your starting life total, rounded up. Which is kind of ridiculous. That means your opponent has to deal 10 damage to you on their turn to win the game. Because you will always, because like no matter what happens, by the end of your turn, you will always be at 10 health. So, a little weird. Yeah, very, very weird. Again, it makes it to where your opponent has to do 10 damage. Like, flat 10 damage, or 10 or more damage to you in a single turn, which is not always easy if you're not running a deck that is good at, like, superpowering your creatures and stuff like that. So, interesting. Very, very an interesting card. And I don't know how many copies I have. I know I at least have one, because this isn't new, so we at least have 2. But anyway, that, my friends, is what we're going to wrap it up with. So if you enjoy this episode, which I do sincerely hope you did, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button down below. And if you do happen to be new to the channel, hello, welcome, and please do consider subscribing. And to stay up to date for whenever new content is released, don't forget to hit that bell icon after you subscribe. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you all next time.